Now, question here. If I were to ask you, like, who is Greg Doucette? How would you define yourself? What would you say?
Who am I? Well, a guy that loves fitness. I have an extreme passion for health and fitness. I have had it since I was, since I was 4 years old. And I remember I just love sports so much. I love being fit. I love promoting health and fitness. So I would say as a person, I just am a guy that really loves being physically active and wishes that everyone could see fitness the way I do. Like, it would just be so great if the world could like wake up every morning as excited as I am about stuff. Like, I'm like, I can't wait. Like today I'm going to do a bike race later. And it's like, I can't wait. And I look forward to like Saturday, there's a club ride with a bunch of people. I can't wait. It's like Christmas all the time. Other people, well, I got to get my cardio over with. Oh, I got to get to the gym. Oh, geez, I can't wait to relax. I just, that sucks. Cause for me, it's like, that's what excites me. I want to go to that. Like when people think I'm going to go see the newest movie, I can't wait for this and that, Top Gun Part 2, can't wait. That's me every day going to the gym, going for a bike ride. And so imagine how fun my life is when I get to live it exactly how I want it.
Well, what was your first love then? Was it bodybuilding, powerlifting, or biking?
It would have been sports. Like my first love would have been all sports, like basketball, badminton, tennis, anything where I was running or challenged to move hard and like push myself. That's what I love. So in high school, I did triathlons from the age of 13. Like I watched a TV show and it was a commercial, like we're going to be this triathlon. I'm like, a triathlon, what's that? And it's like the bike, swim and run. I'm like, wow, that sounds fantastic. So I'm borrowing a guy's bike. I had a mountain bike. I'm like, you need the skinny tires. And I had practiced learning how to swim. And so I'm like, oh, I've never ran. I'm like 12K, that's a long run. And I go in there and thinking I'm going to win. I'm like, I'm in better shape than all my friends. And my parents, they're not in good shape. All my, your older friends. I'm like, none of these people are in shape. I thought I was going there to win. I got last place out of 84 people. I was like 20 minutes behind everyone. And I fell in love with it. I was so addicted. I didn't care last place. Every year after that, I trained and got faster and faster, eventually won provincials. So it's just a matter of like, do it and get better at it, keep going. And I just loved it. So my first passion would have been cardiovascular sports like biking. And I joined the swim team after doing that triathlon because I want to get faster. And so I learned how to swim proper. And so I transitioned from that. At the same time, I was lifting weights since I was 10. So I love like lifting the weights, but I didn't know there was bodybuilding. I didn't know there was a powerlifting thing. The first time I discovered powerlifting, some guy said, there's a bench press contest at the bar. I'm like, really? What do you mean? And they're like, well, you see how much you can lift. I'm like, well, I'm in it. So I'm like 16 years old and I'm going in against the adults. I think I got third overall. I was quite strong even as a kid. Loved it. I didn't know there was a thing as powerlifting. I thought bench press contest. I didn't know there was a deadlift. I didn't know what a deadlift was at this point. Didn't squat, just train in my basement and whatnot. And so from there, I went and discovered I was actually at the bench press contest and some guy was like, there's a powerlifting meet in whatever months. You should do it. You're really good. And I'm like, oh, what is that? And, explaining it. And I entered my first competition and broke records in bench press. And it was just my first thing. I was, in love with it. That was age 22. As soon as I did that, I did probably 70, 80 powerlifting meets and all. And I'd been bodybuilding since, grade 12. So I think I like them equally for different reasons. I don't think I had one that was more enjoyable than the other. Powerlifting was easier to do because you didn't have to diet. Bodybuilding, a lot more work, but a lot of enjoyment from that day on stage because it's like you put like 3 or 4 months of work into just one competition.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I remember you were just like a hell of a bench presser. That's what stood out to me about you. And I know you did Raw Unity a few times. Was that like the biggest meet you did? Was that the one that was the pinnacle, or were there other ones that were bigger, you think?
The biggest meet would have been Raw Unity, or Raw Unity was a big meet. I did WPC Worlds. I won overall at that in 2011, I think. Jay Nara, I remember he was up for his last deadlift and he had to pull the deadlift for the win. And I don't know if he hitched it or something and he didn't count it. It was that close, but that was certainly a big meet. And I got really strong at that competition. Like, you have to remember, I used to compete natural. So then I was on PDs. My bench had gone up 100, like all my lifts were up 100 pounds. It was getting ridiculous. So it was quite fun. When you improve at something, that really makes it fun.
So what were your best numbers in powerlifting? Because I know most of them are listed on Open Powerlifting, but not all of them. So I roughly know where you were, but.
In the bench press, I did 529 with a pause twice. I did one in the under 40, like open, and I did one after 40. So that was the Masters. Probably still is a Masters record. I think it's the all-time Masters 90 kilo and under record, of which I cut 20 pounds in a day, roughly, to make that weight class. And I was, pretty lean, but certainly cut a lot of weight to make that. I'd hurt my shoulder 13 days before the World Championships, where I broke that did that 529 for Masters. And I was going to bench 550, but I hurt myself 13 days before. I had a cortisone shot, didn't train for 13 days, and just showed up and was lucky enough to get 5 pounds over the record. So I was really disappointed. That was the last meet I've ever done. My shoulder is too busted up now. So basically, I just injured myself. I think I was benching like 5 plates for 4 or 5 pause at the time. And I just injured my shoulder, was hanging off me. Like I could hardly lift it up. I could hardly put a jacket on. Sucked, got the shot done. And ever since then, I haven't really been able to bench.
Damn, that's still crazy numbers. Like anything over 5. I never even got to 5. I came close. Couldn't quite get there. But what
being
about
a shorter guy a little bit? I think I was made for the bench. My squats sucked. I've done just over 600. I don't think I've done that in a meet though. I did 600 on 11-inch milk crate. I used to squat to touch a milk crate and come up so that I knew if I was going proper depth. That was pretty low. I think I did 583 or something like that in an official meet. And then the deadlift, I did, I think 693 raw. I kept pulling 700, and every single time it would slip out of my hands on my thighs with the alternate grip. I don't have big enough hands to do the double overhand with straps. I've done 765 and I've done 700 for 10 with straps, but totally different lifts. So much easier. I just could never hold on to the bar in competition once the weight got heavy.
Yeah, that was the same thing for me. The grip was the limiting factor up to a certain point. And then I switched to hook grip, but it was kind of late in my career. And, now with the squat too, did you do high bar or low bar?
I always did low bar squat. Well, actually, when I first started, it was high bar. And I remember going from doing a set of like 10 to doing 2 with low bar. It was way worse. But within 2 weeks, I was getting 20 reps. It immediately got me stronger. Within 2 weeks, I went from doing a set of 10, I remember the weight, to a set of 20 with the same weight going to a low bar. So I put it as low as I could, made it a lot better. But I have something called femoroacetabular impingement, cam tight. I had a hip operation on my right hip. I need an operation on my left. Doctor says, do not squat. Don't ever do that. So I don't squat. I don't deadlift. I don't bench anymore. So I've kind of had to give up all powerlifting. And so, I train completely different than I used to.
I have the same thing. FAI
Really?
on the right hip. My hip's completely shot. It's given me problems my whole career. I hate squatting.
I could never squat proper.
Yeah, I could give up squatting forever and just deadlift. I'd be fine. I just hate squatting because it feels so awful and awkward and leads to hip pain and back pain. And just because of the FAI thing.
My whole career with powerlifting in the squats, it was always in pain. I'd often try to do squats with a suit on so that it would take away that pain, but I was competing raw. So I'd train with the suit on and go into the competition raw just because I had to. I would do the squat at the contest, 2 weeks in pain. I finally was like, I just can't do this stuff. So I pretty much just focused on the bench and deadlift for reps. I was really good at that. So I tended to do that a lot.
Well, do you think powerlifting beats you up pretty good? Is that why you have all these injuries now? The heavy training?
I definitely think if I hadn't powerlifted, I wouldn't have had all these injuries. It was because I was literally trying to max out. I mean, bench pressing 5 plates for reps, pause, it's going to play a toll on your body eventually. I mean, I've been training hard, maxing out since I was 10. Like when I was 13, I was going for 1 rep maxes almost every workout. As a teenager, my bench pressing was maxing out all the time. That's how I trained. I got really good at it, but after a while, it plays a toll. So this shoulder's really messed up. I mean, I was also in a bike accident. I had, separated my shoulder and stuff as a teenager. So both shoulders really, really struggling, but I can still do chest. Like I'll do a machine and just push up like this. It hurts to do pec. Pretty much everything hurts, but I can do a little bit just to keep the muscle that I have.
No, in your heyday of powerlifting, when you were competing, pulling 694, raw unity, all that. What did your training look like? What was the structure? How many days? How many days did you bench? Stuff like that.
I was on a 4-day split. I did squat, bench, and deadlift each on separate days. And then on the 4th day, I would do a biceps, shoulders, and calves, kind of like the accessory body parts. I did that all together, kind of did like a circuit. I would rest a lot, 5, 6, 7 minutes between sets. I'd train bench. It would take me an hour just to do the bench. And then I would finish off with the shoulders and triceps, did legs on one day. Deadlifts would be the same thing. I'd walk in there, deadlift for 30, 45 minutes. And then after I was done that, finish off my back with your rows and your pull-ups and that kind of stuff. That was typically how I trained. I did way higher reps than everyone. I usually did 10 reps plus on any exercise unless I was getting ready for a competition, and I would slowly lower the weight slowly increase the weight as the contest got near. But almost always it would be like 10 to 15 reps on a bench press, 10 to 15 on a deadlift, 10 plus on the squat. I never did the 5 sets of 5. You rarely saw me doing a set of under 8 reps other than, say, a month before a competition.
Now, is that because you wanted it to translate more towards bodybuilding and hypertrophy?
Well, I did think that a bigger muscle would be a stronger muscle. So if I focused on time under tension, more like higher reps, that I'd get bigger muscles. And then when it came time to peaking for strength, I found it only took me a month. Like in a month, I could add whatever pounds, 30, 40 pounds on my bench in a month as I was progressing towards a contest. And so I thought, well, if I do higher reps, I'll get bigger muscles, and then I'll use that month and I'll peak. And I tried it, in my younger days. I'll be like, okay, I'm going to peak for 2 months. I'll peak for 3 months. Never got stronger after 30, 40 days. So, and I saw no point in pushing really heavy weights for light reps because chances of injury were higher. And so why bother when I'm going to get the same amount of max on my bench by peaking for 30, 40 days?